Welcome to The Tech Ranch, live and local here on SuperTalk 1270. The latest gadgets, online security, websites and apps, social media, and so much more. How can technology help you? Let's find out. It's time for The Tech Ranch on SuperTalk 1270.
Hey, good morning there. Rockin' Dave Blair coming from our beautiful studios in lovely Mandan, North Dakota, where temperature is, what is it, Jim?
-10, I thought she said.
Oh, -10. Well,
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, it is definitely a change from where I was last week down in Vegas at the 2018 CES show. But I tell you what, we have to always be prepared for this kind of weather, and we're excited about what's in store for us here in 2018 with what I saw at CES. Hey, I wanted to just back up just a little bit. Hey, did you watch the Vikings game last night, Jim?
Not really. Didn't get a chance. I heard about it.
Well, you missed one of the awesome plays that I've ever seen.
That's what I'm hearing.
And I've watched football for a long time, and my Minnesota Vikings have disappointed me many, many times. Well, they pulled out a victory in the last 10 seconds of the game, and hey, they're going on to Philadelphia next week for the conference championship. But what an exciting finish for a very fun game to watch. Well, hey, Jim, do you remember where you were when Martin Luther King was shot?
I do indeed. I was 12 years old.
You were 12.
I was in the 6th grade, yeah.
Yep, and I was 7, I believe. And no, I was 8. And what a day that was. I remember all the protests going on, and all of the things that were happening with all the riots and everything. And we think back to all the issues we had with racism that back then, and it still seems like there's a lot of that happening today yet. But one of the things that we have to remember is that we have this free society where we can speak our own minds, and I really appreciate that freedom of speech. And Martin Luther King definitely stepped out to show the equality that needs to be and the justice that needs to take place. And I really admire his stand out there. Well, let's talk just a little bit about 2018 CES show. I always get a kick out of some of the stuff I've been reading, but it's the day that the lights went out in Vegas at the show. And it wasn't actually all of Vegas, but at the CES show, the lights went out for a couple hours, and that kind of shocked everybody. Vegas never turns their lights out. So we had a memorable experience. I was actually in a separate hall where the lights didn't go out. But once we came out of the building, I couldn't figure out what was going on, and I found out that the power had went off in a couple of the other arenas. In fact, Marlo and Alice and Nick were in one of those arenas, and they had to just hang low for a while there. So it was kind of interesting that the Consumer Electronic Showcase, they had a power outage, and it was actually caused by the heavy rains the day before, and there was a lot of leaking going on, I guess, in one of the main arenas, and it got water into a transformer, and it shut it down. So there's been a lot of talk about that, and the interesting part of what takes place when you're at a show like that, and then you lose power. Surprisingly, they had a lot of backup power, so there wasn't a lot of issues there. One of the interesting things, and Marlo's going to join us here in the next segment too. We did a lot of video and interviews, but I went over the day before the show started to a conference on autonomous cars, and we've been talking about that quite a bit on our program. I'm involved with the North Dakota Automated Vehicle Collaborative, and in fact, we've got a roundtable discussion talking about the connectivity between drones and autonomous cars coming up here in about a week and a half. And one of the things that I was very intrigued by was some of the new technology that's happening out there. And Jim, have you heard of the competition and the between Tesla and Byton cars?
I know Tesla is usually competing with somebody.
Well, I don't know. I hadn't heard Elon Musk was supposed to be there at the CES, but I'm not sure if he shared. I'm not sure if he was there or not. But there's a car out there right now, and a lot of you car geeks will appreciate this. It's a Byton, and it's like a Tesla. It's a lot less expensive, and they're taking orders for it right now. Okay. And it's a little bit less expensive than Tesla right now as well. But I ran into their head of their marketing and new product development, and he's actually was from Minnesota, and he's traveled all over North Dakota. So we picked up our conversation about some of the car dealers that he used to call on, and he showed me the latest video on this Byton car. And I'll tell you what, it's a super good-looking car. And I think it's going to give Tesla a run for its money. And they've got, I think he said they've got 3,000 pre-orders right now for that car. It'll be coming out here in 2019. And just keep your ears and eyes open for this Byton car. I think there's 4 different colors you can get, and it's quite the vehicle. We're going to be talking a little bit about some of the other technologies that we came across here at 2018 CES. The Guru of Geek's going to be joining us here in the next couple segments, so stay tuned for the new and improved Guru Geek Marlo Anderson.
Right now, it's 10 below.
Dave Ramsey is heard here. SuperTalk 1270.
Follow the Guru of Geek at Facebook.com/The Tech Ranch or Twitter at Guru of Geek or TheTechRanch.com. Here again is your Guru of Geek, Marlo Anderson.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Rockin' Dave Blair coming from our studios here in Mandan. And hey, I decided to bring on a guest this morning. Every once in a while he shows up, and it's not the geezer. I'm sorry.
No, the geezer is curled off in the corner somewhere.
Yeah, he is. He's froze up.
Yeah.
I'm sure. But hey, the Guru Geek, Marlo Anderson, the new and improved Marlo Anderson is what I'm calling you. How you doing
Good morning,
this morning?
everybody. I'm doing great. How about you guys?
Well, we're surviving the frigid, cold temperatures of North Dakota. In fact, my pond with my koi froze up this weekend. So I'm going to have sushi this spring.
Hopefully that's not the case.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, that's just the way it goes. Sometimes if you're not home to check on that heater, I have a stock heater in my pond. Something shorted out, and the fish are no longer swimming around. They're frozen in suspension there. So, well, Marlo, hey, it was a great week that we spent down in CES 218, and I was talking about the competition between Tesla and Biden for the new electric cars, and I think that's kind of intriguing that we've got some really new electric cars coming out. And I was telling them a little bit about meeting one of the guys from Bitten, and I know that you've got your order in for your Tesla, right?
I do, actually. Hopefully I'll get it sometime this year.
So what color did you order? I forgot to ask you that before.
Well, is there anything but black?
Oh, well, Bitten's got 4 different colors to choose from. I don't know. What's Tesla got?
Oh, I don't know how many colors they do have. They do have a choice, though. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, you know, some of the things that we ran into, you know, and it was kind of a different show. You know, the first day that we were there, it wasn't quite as many people there, but man, Wednesday and Thursday, it was just, you know, bumper to bumper, or butt to butt, I guess, maybe, people. And so, you know, what did you come away with? What was how was the show different this year than last year from your observation?
Well, I think, you know, there were certainly a bunch of issues this year. You know, the first day was the rain, and I think that caused a lot of issues for the event. In fact, the power outage that occurred on the second day was because of the rain we had on the first. So we had a lot of news coming out of CES about CES this year, which is unusual, actually.
Yeah, it'll green things up, definitely, for sure. And I think the funny thing was that we talked about was there wasn't an umbrella to be found in Vegas. Everybody was buying them up.
Yeah, that's for sure. I mean, it's something that you expect to have this time of year here, but it does happen occasionally. There's no doubt about it.
Well, you know, one thing that I came away with is that I think there was, I think this is right, 900 new startups, and compared to, I don't know how many were last year in 2017, but man, I tell you what, that whole area really intrigues me a lot.
You know, you could spend your whole time just in the startup village. There's no doubt about it. They call it Eureka Park, and it's a lot of fun. You have a lot of companies that are anxious to tell you about their new products. And in fact, I know when you and I were interviewing with you, you'd have you're doing an interview with one, and there's 3 or 5 of them waiting around you trying to get your attention. So that was interesting as well.
Oh, for sure. You know, what did, you know, some of the things that you came away with, I mean, some of the highlights. I know we did some interviews together. You and John did some interviews together as well. But, you know, there was that one particular company that had you come over there, I think 3 different times to speak. Maybe you want to talk just a little bit about them because, man, these guys are pretty unique when it comes to a lot of sporting types of equipment, but also just new types of technologies. And I was very impressed with them. You want to just give our audience just a snapshot of those guys and keep your eyes and ears open for who they are and what they're doing out there?
Well, the company's called Accessory Power. They do a lot of unique things. So, you know, they got their start in storage, you know, power storage. And you can get those, you know, the accessory power bricks for your backups and that type of thing. But It was interesting. They didn't even have one of those on display there this year. They really got into the gaming space, which was interesting. They had a lot of survival type of gear. But things that you can mount your GoPro on, but what I really fell in love with was their keyboard. I don't know if you looked at the keyboard.
Yeah, I did. Those are pretty cool.
I thought they were cool because, of course, they light up from behind. So then all the keys light up, and even the letters on the keys light up. So if you like to work in low light situations, it's kind of nice. And then you can program the color of those keys. So if you hit the delete a lot like I do, or the backspace, because I make a lot of mistakes when I'm typing, you can make those like the color red, and the rest of your keyboard is yellow, for example. So you can spot those a little bit quicker, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah, and I saw some of the other things that was pretty cool, and I'd seen some of them at the other booths too, where these. And they had different shapes and sizes, but what they were kind of like, they could serve as a night light, and for children, I think it's pretty cool, but they also can play music at the same time, and it just kind of puts you in a sleepful mode position, and I was very intrigued by those, and the cost wasn't that outrageous as well, but they had different colors and different moods that you could put them into, and then the different sounds that and recordings that you could put into them as well. And I guess some of the things that I noticed at the show this year was about people that are having issues with sleeping, and there was a lot of that different booths that talked about sleeping habits and how to help with that. But that one really kind of intrigued me because those night lights having that noise and stuff like that, I think especially for children is helps them go to sleep a little faster.
So did you see the Nucalm booth? Nucalm?
No, I did not.
So that's a sleep enhancement as well. What they claim is they get you to REM sleep almost immediately. So they basically they're advertising, and I didn't try this because there are so many people in line, but they advertise that 20 minutes equals 2 hours of sleep.
And we know in our society today how stressful things are, and sometimes even just when you're just exhausted, and then pretty soon the whole brain wakes up at about 2 o'clock in the morning and it's going full speed ahead again, and you're trying to remember things, and you're thinking about the next day. But that sounds like a really cool device. Did you see how that worked?
Well, they had about 50 cots set up in their booth, and they had a sleep mat that goes over, and I think there's some earbuds that go in, and it's something about the sound that gets you to that place. And what was interesting, I was talking to the CEO of this company, and he said, "What do they all look like over there right now?" And I'm like, "Well, they're all look like they're zombies. They're all just sleeping, right?" And that was amazing to me that people could just lie down on this thing, put this mask on, put the earbuds in, and they were asleep that quickly. So it certainly gets you there pretty fast.
Well, I tell you what, I think you're going to see. I know there was a lot of different types of new beds out there as well, and pillows, and there was this one headband that I went by this booth that actually sends waves to your brain to put you into a certain a mode so that you can sleep better as well. It's almost like a headband, and it goes on there. And I was pretty intrigued by that. The problem is I don't know if I want somebody messing around with my brain, even though there's not much up there anyway. But still, there's that whole sense of something interfering with your signals in your brain.
They examined your brain and found nothing.
I found nothing. Yeah. It was hollow there. Yes, it was. So, we're joined by Guru Geek. I think he's still down in Vegas, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Hey, Marlo.
Marlo.
Hey, I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah. Are you still in Vegas yet?
I am. I am still here.
All right. Well, you're missing out on some beautiful weather here. Wish you were back with us. And, it'll happen sooner than you can imagine. I wanted to talk a little bit when we come back on our next segment about these new flat TVs that are pretty cool, and we'll talk about some new other gadgets that we ran into while we're there. So, Rockin' Dave Blair and the Guru of Geek signing off for the next segment. Thank you.
Right now, it's 10 below.
The Red River Farm Network. Ag News is here on SuperTalk 1270.
We're back to the Tech Ranch. Stream this program now at supertalk1270.com. Here is your Guru of Geek, Marlo Anderson.
Hey, Rockin' Dave Blair and the Guru of Geek joining us for segment number 3. Hey, I forgot to ask you, Marlo, did you get to watch the Vikings game last night?
Yeah, that was quite an ending, wasn't it?
Oh my gosh, me and Jim were talking about it. He didn't even watch it. I guess he heard about it.
Yeah.
You know, there's something about hearing about it and really seeing it live, though, Jim. It's important. But man, what a finish, huh?
Yeah,
I bet you it was everything down in Vegas. A lot of it has to do with gambling, and obviously sports gambling is big time. Down there as well. In fact, I watched the championship game between Alabama and Georgia, and man, the money that had to be exchanged that night had to be incredible.
Yeah.
So
I will tell you that your team, the place that I was at, went crazy when that day happened. So there was certainly a lot more Vikings fans and Saints fans in the audience.
Well, a lot of people like to come down there and get some good flights coming out of Minneapolis or North Dakota, South Dakota, you name it, and we definitely like to get away and especially when it's cold. But yeah, it was a pretty exciting evening last night for sure. Yeah. So one of the things that I ran into that was pretty cool, and I just wanted to touch briefly on it, was a company called Mogio. And Mogio has a device that goes into your car that actually has the characteristics where you can measure everything that's going on in your car. So you have the data in hand to look at if there's problems with check light engine comes on, anything that would be electronic in your car. That data is put into this little device that plugs into your car, and then it's sent to your smartphone to tell you exactly what's going on, so you can know ahead of time really what's happening with your car. And I was really, really impressed with that. It also, if your car's ever stolen, you know exactly where your car is, because it alerts your smartphone to where that car is. And it also detects any type of Wi-Fi hotspots that you need. And then the data that you have for driving, whether you're braking a lot, whether you're making quick turns or whatever, is saved in your cloud for yourself, and you can take a look at it once in a while. I don't know if I want to know what's happening with all my driving habits, but I thought this company and this device is pretty unique, and I think you're going to see that being deployed here very soon. It was they've been testing it a lot, so I was pretty impressed. That was the day we were over there at the show for autonomous vehicles. But Mogio is a company that keep your eyes and ears open for that as well. One of the areas that we never got to really that much, but I heard so much about it, was these new super flat screen TVs that actually roll up, and which is kind of cool. You can actually have a device where they roll up. So if you think like a printer where the paper comes out, imagine it, paper coming all the way out. You have your screen, you pull it up, you watch your TV program or movie, and then it goes back down into this device that protects it. And so I've been hearing a lot about that. Did you get a chance to see any of that while you were at the show? Because we wandered around a lot. You were in one area and I was in another area.
So I did try to get to that booth. There was a lot of attention on that booth, so I didn't get close either. But I did read some reviews on it. It is interesting. I mean, I call them jellyfish screens. They've been working their way into the market for a couple of years. You're starting to see them on your cell phones now. That's why your cell phones are able to get so thin. It's because they are using these jellyfish-type screens. And the reason I call it a jellyfish screen is the doctor that invented it, the idea originated when he seen jellyfish in the ocean lighting up. And thought, well, if they can do that, why can't we figure out a way to do this too? So that's how it is. In the future, as the technology gets better, basically your smartphone, you'll either roll it up or fold it up and put it in your pocket. So it's the start of making things thinner and more energy efficient as we move forward.
One of the other things that I noticed at the show was how much wireless technology is happening out there. So you don't have all these cords hanging all over the place. And I think we're going to see more and more of that happening as well.
Yeah, including power.
Yeah.
You're going to see wireless power being utilized in more places too.
Yes, and those are always important things because it's still funny to see everybody still plugging into a wall outlet to charge up their phone or their camera or whatever device they have. But more and more of the wireless charging is happening over there. One of the things that I wanted to touch bases in was about the, I didn't spend a lot of time. I got to see one robot that you can deploy at either grocery stores or at the airport or whatever, and it'll give you tap onto it and it'll tell you what's going on, where you need to go to, and that kind of stuff. Did you run into very many of those booths at all while you were there?
I ran into a couple. I ran into one called Beam, BEAM, and I'm fascinated with this one. So it's like a virtual presence of yourself. So it's a robot that runs around that basically has a tablet as its base, like a tablet that you and I would use. And if you need to be, if you're away, let's say right now I'm in Vegas, you're in North Dakota, and I need to be in a meeting there, I can actually roll my virtual self to the meeting, and everybody will see me. They'll see my face on this thing, and I can talk to you through that from here.
Wow, I wish I would have got to see that. So does a robot look like Marlo then?
Well, it's just my image coming through.
No, I know.
It's not going to sell any if it looks like me.
Okay.
So you better change that right now.
So what else caught your attention there at CES 218?
Well, I think, when you and John and I caught up to each other outside the South Hall there, you guys are looking at the hydrogen fuel cell semi-truck.
Oh, yeah.
And we can talk about that a little bit. But as you were doing that, of course, I was looking at the flying cars. It's amazing how we're moving closer to that all the time. Now I can't remember how it's said, but the Velociraptor, is that how they pronounce it?
Yep, I believe that's correct.
That was that two-seater that we were looking at. It's a two-seat flying car. Again, it's an autonomous vehicle, so you just program it to fly from point A to point B, so you don't need a pilot's license to fly it. And they are actually testing that in Dubai right now. So there's a couple of flying cars that are out there that I think you're going to start seeing making their way into the U.S. airspace pretty soon.
You know, speaking of that one booth we were at there was, I think, Freightliner was there, and I can't remember what was the other trucking company.
I think it was Peterbilt, wasn't it?
Peterbilt, there we go. Should have. Thank you, Jim. Appreciate that. But one of the things that caught my eye was this the drone that could actually would deploy parts from, if they had parts that they had a breakdown, the drone would go to the distribution center to pick up the parts for the truck and then fly it from the distribution center or the automotive center and fly it to the truck so that the truck driver, because truck drivers now, it seems like to have to be mechanics as well, could actually take the parts from the drone and do whatever repairs they needed to do on the truck without having to have it towed in or anything. So I thought that was pretty cool.
I think what's interesting about that, and I know you and I talked about this a lot, the marriage of drones to vehicles, right? And as we get closer and closer to that, you're going to find more and more unique opportunities, unique uses for them. I think that's spectacular that somebody come up with that idea to go chase after parts for trucks. That's amazing.
It's all about time and saving time, and we know that the drone technology definitely is there, and we've been talking about the connectivity between autonomous vehicles and drones. Speaking of that, how was the drone? Was it called Drone Rodeo?
Drone Rodeo, yeah.
Yeah, so I know you had some weather conditions, but what did you pick up on that?
Yeah, it was interesting. You know, of course, it was raining and raining pretty heavily most of the time, so a lot of things were not taking place that day. But they did manage to pull off some drone racing, and just the difference from the last time I was at a drone race to this time is amazing. And those drones run up to about 100 miles an hour right now when they're racing, and they are so agile. That was the other thing that was amazing to me, is that, you know, how good these.
Well, maybe we can pick up. We're moving into our last segment here. Maybe we can close a little bit more about the drones and what's happening there. So, hey, we'll join us, please, here in a few minutes as we conclude our morning Tech Ranch show with Marlo Anderson.
Right now, it's 8 below.
On Twitter, Facebook, online, and YouTube. SuperTalk1270.com.
Follow the Guru of Geek everywhere he goes. Post your comments or questions at thetechranch.com. Once again, your Guru of Geek, Marlo Anderson.
We're closing in on the last segment here. This is Rockin' Dave Blair, joined by the Guru of Geek. That's still down in Vegas, enjoying the beautiful weather down there. You know, we've been talking a little bit about the CES 218 show, but one of the things that I was very impressed with was, and I think you know that's part of what's happening is all the security now that has to be launched no matter where you're at, even the hotel where we stayed at. I mean, more security than I've ever seen. Did you pick up on that too, Marlo?
Yeah, of course, security was the tightest it's ever been at the show. And you're right, even events around town, everywhere, there just seems to be a bigger presence of that.
Well, it's all about safety and making sure you want people to have a good experience and feel safe when you're down there. And I definitely did, that's for sure. A couple other things that we maybe we can talk a little bit about on this last segment was there was this unique booth, I guess I don't want to say so unique, but it caught our attention when we were the last day there. It had this little robot called Augie that kids could interact with, and using an iPad. And, I was very, very impressed with that technology. Unfortunately, and this just kind of blows me away too, the people at the booth were frustrated because of the slowness of the internet there at CES, and I heard this more and more from people that how slow the internet was, so they weren't really able to show us the whole demonstration, although he had a video on it as well. But did you pick up on that too, the internet service there at the CES this year?
Yeah, I just wonder if because of the weather issues that it complicated things a lot. So a lot of people were really having problems, which, of course, when you're trying to show off your technology and you need to have connectivity, that causes a lot of problems.
Yeah, hopefully they can address that for next year. Because
absolutely.
I know I would have been frustrated if I would have had a booth there and had a demonstration online and it just wouldn't load up or whatever. But
right.
So, what did you think of Augie, the little robot?
I thought Augie was cool. I think what I like about it is that one space that people, if they're looking at where their kids are going to have work in the future, one of them is certainly in augmented reality, and the programming that goes behind it. And Augie kind of combines both robotics and augmented reality into one piece. So you kind of get kids thinking in that direction.
Yeah, I think that was what I picked up on too, is that, the interaction that kids have, you see almost constantly. They're either on an iPad or iPhone or smartphone, and the interaction that they have with another being, or being able to be creative. And I think that's what this whole Augie scenario really brought to my attention, was being able to still interact with and use your mind a lot more, and not have to rely on the iPad or the phone or whatever apps that you might have. So I think they connected both realities together, and I thought that was pretty cool.
Well, I think when you think about play, right, you more and more kids and adults as well. I mean, we spend so much time in front of our screens now that we don't get out and actually do anything, but to sit there and do that. So you have to think about how you can get kids to do interactive things. And I think Augie does a great job of that.
I agree. So keep your ears and eyes open, obviously, for this device that will be coming out here, I think, shortly. One thing that I picked up on, too, and I didn't get to see this, but I know we talked a little bit about it, was these Pixel buds that are actually earbuds that you put into your ear, but they become a translator for you. And I think they have over 80 different languages that you can translate for you. So you wear these earbuds in your ear, and you can program them to a language, and we'll use Spanish for an example, so that when you want to speak to somebody that doesn't understand English, and you don't understand Spanish, is that when you speak to them, you can use your phone then to pick up on, and they hear it in their language, and then they can speak back in their language, and then you hear it in English coming through these earbuds. It's a Pixel is the name of the company. I know you've heard a little bit about this, correct, Marlo?
Yeah, and so there's the biggest issue right now is a little bit of lag with that. So if you speak French into your phone, you get the lag that goes into the earbuds. But it's certainly going to get better as quantum computers come out here in the next couple of years, and our devices are significantly faster. That's what they're preparing themselves for. I mean, it'll be almost instantaneous in about 3 to 4 years in the cockpit. Even still, I mean, the ability to communicate with up to 80 different languages is pretty amazing.
You know, I wanted to kind of close with maybe the competition going on with Alexa and Siri and Google Assistant out there, and we saw a lot of that as well. But what's your take on those new assistants for asking questions? Because man, I used my Siri all the time when I was out there. Wanted to know where a booth was or where I needed to go. So, what's your take on those different technologies?
Well, we are certainly moving into that space a lot quicker than I even thought we would. Our technology is starting to understand our speech patterns better and able to answer better. I mean, on my phone, I have a new Samsung Galaxy 8 that uses what's called Bixby. And Bixby is pretty good too, and even Microsoft Cortana. You know, if you have a Microsoft 10 machine, Cortana is amazing too. So everybody's moving into this space, and you know, it may be that in a couple, 3 or 5 years, we may not even probably type anymore because we just talk into our machines, and it'll do a pretty good job of transcribing that.
And before we finish, you know, one of the other, some of the other stuff that we saw up there is facial recognition and voice recognition, and how important that's going to be in the future. Do you have any comments on that?
Well, as you know, facial recognition is certainly going to be key to security, I think, in the future, both when you're attending events and also for your devices. You know, it's a great way to make sure that you're the person that's supposed to be using your device. So I see that being a big deal. You know, the other thing too is that I wanted to throw out too is the Hyperloop. So you've seen that, right? You've seen the pod sitting there.
I saw the pod. I was kind of hoping that one day we were going to see it more and learn a little bit more about it. But I did see the pod there.
So at least now you have a visual of how the pods are going to work, right? So how many people do you think could fit in the pod?
You know, I looked at that. You know, it almost looks like a rail car or one of those that they use on the soft line for. So I'm guessing 40 in each pod.
Do you think there's that many? I was thinking more like around 10 or 12.
Oh, really? Yeah. You know, I did. I guess I didn't know how the configuration was on the inside, but so 10, 12, maybe that makes more sense.
I suppose it kind of depends on how they have the seating and that type of thing, if it's going to be more of a comfortable thing or if it's going to be for volume. That'll be interesting to see, actually. I never thought about it that way.
Yeah. Well, you know, as fast as it goes, you probably don't need to have comfort. You know, you're not sitting in there that long, right? So there probably wood bench seats, kind of like a pew, maybe.
Well, if that's the case, I guess 40 will fit just fine.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, you're going to see a lot more of this when we talked about the flying cars and this Hyperloop and what's happening with the autonomous side of things. And, you know, we'll definitely be keeping everybody aware of some of the new things that will be happening here and are going to continue to happen. So as we close out this day, you know, I think we had a good week at CES 218. This is my second time, and I seem to enjoy it more and more all the time. I'm not sure if I enjoy it, all the people that are there, but we had a good time. Obviously, the Guru of Geek is well recognized. A lot of people are looking for him down there. So, Marlo, thanks for your being such a good host, and look forward to seeing you when you come back here. So, Rockin' Dave Blair and the Guru Geek signing off. Stay warm out there, everybody. God bless.